For every amazing week of fantasy football, it isn't without its casualties or lost soldiers along the way. Guys like Cam Scadaboo may not be able to play another game this season, but all in all, there's always new players to be added on the waiver wire in fantasy football, and that's what this video is about today. I'm going to give you my best waiver wire picks for week 9. This is for no matter if you lost somebody due to injury or even though we just passed bye week apocalypse, maybe you have a bye week in week 9 that you need to go out on the waiver wire to fill. That's what this video is going to talk about today. Here are my must-add players on the waiver wire this week for week 9. Roll the damn intro. The first player, and probably the most obvious one, those who have Cam Scadaboo in fantasy or wish they had Cam Scadaboo in fantasy. Most of you may not be able to grab Tyrone Tracy on the waiver wire, but let's just talk about it anyway in case those of you that play in a fantasy league that he is available, you can grab him. This is going to be the new 3-down back for the New York Giants. I understand they have Devin Singletary still there, and he will get sprinkled in some carries, but all 3 downs is mostly going to go to Tyrone Tracy. All of the receiving work is going to go to Tyrone Tracy, and I would assume that the goal line carries would also go to Tyrone Tracy. Therefore, Devin Singletary, not making this list of waiver wire ads, but Tyrone Tracy definitely is. Before the Tyrone Tracy injury early in the season that led to Cam Scadaboo running away with this starting job, Tyrone Tracy left us a lot to be desired, and that's what helped Cam Scadaboo get his job. But I don't think this is going to be a case where we get Tyrone Tracy back under center, and he's still leaving us with more to be desired. We're no longer in a situation where it is a backfill by committee. This is going to be just Tyrone Tracy's job. And just because he's a receiving back alone, that PPR value is immense. That's something you're not going to be able to find on the waiver wire every single week. So again, if available, I highly doubt it. Go grab Tyrone Tracy. The next player we should be adding on waiver wires, it is a wide receiver. He does play for the Tennessee Titans, and you may not know how to pronounce his name, but Chimere Dike, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans, is a must-add player in fantasy now. A lot of this production that Chimere Dike has seen is mostly because of the absence of Calvin Ridley, but no matter how you get there, this was a player that was supposed to be, I don't want to say better than Alec Iamaner, but they drafted him with a higher draft pick than Alec Iamaner. So obviously, they saw, the Titans, the potential in this wide receiver, felt like they still needed to go get another in Alec Iamaner. Alec Iamaner had the better training camp. That was all the buzz we heard. That's why he emerged on the scene so fast. But Chimere Dike, if continued to be in this offense, if continued to be a offense that's not called by Brian Callahan, his numbers in the offense since Brian Callahan has left is kind of eye-opening, and it leads me to believe that there is a chance that Chimere Dike could go on this kind of like Nick Westbrook-Akine run like we had last year, where maybe it's not the coolest name, maybe it's not the coolest situation to have in fantasy, but it's gonna produce. And being that it's just been 2 games since Brian Callahan has left, he's been averaging 6 targets a game in those 2 games and has already scored his first career touchdown. It's pretty obvious that the Tennessee Titans coaching staff clearly sees what we all see in DK, and as long as he's producing, he will continue to see more snaps, more opportunities, and most importantly, the Tennessee Titans have been a terrible offense. This we already know. If they're not 32nd in points the entire year, 31st in passing yards and total yards, maybe they could get up to like 28th, 27th. That's going to be enough to get you a quality starting wide receiver. Obviously, if they're going to keep scoring the lowest amount of points per game in the NFL, we don't really want DK then. But if Cam Ward is going to find his groove and find his stride midway through the season, a lot of rookie quarterbacks tend to do that. I mean, we're sitting here in week 9 and we haven't seen it yet. I get it. But somebody like Bo Nix last year really didn't emerge onto the scene till like week 6 anyway, and then we started taking note of him. Cam Ward could have a little run during the season, maybe 4 or 5 games, where it's better than what we've seen. Maybe we're not ready to say this is the, all-pro franchise guy, but you should expect to see better performance, especially since they fired Brian Callahan, and that seemed to be the thing that was holding them back. Next up, this is going to be a niche ad for players that don't play in a league with an IR spot or multiple IR spots. I'm going to assume this player is available, but if you play in a league with IR spots, you have no chance of getting this player. Trey Benson could be on his way back soon, and if available in your leagues, I think you have to make the move right now for him, because if you can stash him, no, maybe he's not going to play this week. Maybe he won't play next week. But if you have weeks 11 and on, Trey Benson that we saw in the first few weeks of the season where we were all convinced this is league-winning upside, why wouldn't you go drop the fab bag on Trey Benson? Like, I'm in a work league, 12 teams. He's available on waivers. Is this league a cupcake joke of a league? Yeah, I would say that. I sure hope I win or else this would look stupid. But even though they ain't on their P's and Q's, we don't have an IR spot. Trey Benson's available. I'm dropping the fab on him this weekend. Or I shouldn't say this weekend. I'm dropping the fab on him this week. And I know that if I get what I saw in Trey Benson, while even James Conner was still healthy, I'm chilling in terms of running back production. So again, while this news may not be beneficial to many of you, maybe there's a pathway in your league where you can make a trade for Trey Benson before he comes back. Now, as a running back, I'm not going to ask you to trade for. I'm going to say if available, go pick him up. And if not, it's okay. Tyjae Spears is someone that's continuing to get a lot of production in his minimal snaps and opportunities in the Tennessee Titans offense. And again, just because I've seen Brian Callahan see the door already, we're seeing things change in this offense. I'm starting to see a world where Tony Pollard kind of gets kicked to the curb and Tyjae Spears is the guy. But the problem with that mindset is Tony Pollard probably isn't going anywhere. It would have to take probably another 2 really inefficient games from him, or maybe even an injury. Obviously, we don't hope for those things, but those would be the way that Tyjae Spears gets to take the 3-down back set in this offense. For the time being, he's been very good in the limited amount of touches he's had. But you never know when that next step up is going to be him being the starter. So that's why we should definitely be adding Tyjae Spears if available in our fantasy football leagues. 2 more names that I just want to get through briefly. Tank Bisgby, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles. And before I continue to say anything else, Saquon Barkley is perfectly fine. He is on track to play next week. It's not about that there was one injury and that it could be one more thing that leads to this. We know Saquon Barkley is a player who's had injury problems in the past, right? I'm not saying I wish for it to happen. I'm not saying I want it to happen. But if you were to go through the numbers and evaluate how many times he's missed, 4 more games in a season versus how many times it's been like the Philadelphia season last year where the only time he sits is week 18, the last game of the season. When someone tells you who they are, you just have to believe it at a certain point. And I do believe this guy, the numbers, the stats, the history tells you that it's very likely he could go down with an injury. And I don't want that to happen. But at this point in the year, if that were to happen, Tank Bisgby would be a phenomenal running back to start every week in a run-first Philadelphia offense. You got to be open to the idea of you never know where you're going to find that running back production from, and you can't look at anybody on the waiver wire and say, that can't be, because you probably looked at Rico Dowdle and said the same thing. You probably looked at Kamani Vidal and said the same thing. You get where I'm going? And finally, this has been a player we've talked about many, many weeks ago. Wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, Troy Franklin, after having a few, I would say, lackluster performances, he did seem to get back on track against the Dallas Cowboys. No, you're not going to get that kind of game from Troy Franklin every week, but we have to just accept that at this point, Troy Franklin is going to be a matchup-dependent wide receiver. If the matchup tells you that this team gives up a lot of points to the wide receivers, i.e. a Dallas Cowboys, or i.e. a Las Vegas Raiders, who they still have to play twice, by the way. Troy Franklin at this point is a matchup-dependent wide receiver if you're going to start him in fantasy. But I'm here to tell you that there are starting opportunities for him in the near future in fantasy. Next week's going to be tough against Houston. Following that, you're looking at the Vegas Raiders in week 10. You're going to have the bye week, week 12, right? And then weeks 13 and 14 are going to be against the Raiders and the Commanders. So 2 positive matchups yet again for Troy Franklin. It's starting to seem like in a short span of just a few weeks, we may be able to get a few weeks out of him where we're like, damn, that was a good start. The bottom line is just, it's okay to be matchup dependent. As long as you know that you have matchups that are positive and can be played, you can go ahead and grab a guy or trade for a guy like Troy Franklin, knowing that, yeah, you're only going to be able to use him certain weeks in niche scenarios. But those scenarios and those situations where he is a positive matchup, he's going to deliver. There is most definitely a boomer bust nature when it comes to Troy Franklin. He's had a lot of weeks where he scores under 10. But he can also break out for over 20. So it's that boomer bust and the balance that you have to play. And if we can play him in only matchups where he could potentially score 20, then we don't have to worry about the games where he only scores 8 points. And that's going to wrap it up for our Week 9 waiver wire video. Surely there could be an instance where somebody on Monday Night Football breaks out and I miss it and don't get to cover it. But that's just part of the nature of trying to get the video out on Tuesdays for you guys. If you're still here, you're still sticking around and watching this video, make sure you smash that like button for your boy so I know to keep making waiver wire videos just like this one. Did I cook? Is my list absolutely fried? Let me know in the comments down below. We can have a discussion about it. And as always, for all my dogs over in Outlier Militia, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.